Hi YouTube, it's Callum for Something Like TCG. I run a small online business with my wife in Gibraltar selling primarily Asian Pokemon cards. Now, today's a bit of a doozy and a good opportunity to establish myself in my very young YouTube career with a particular direction, and I believe that's important because when you look at all the famous YouTubers and all the successful YouTubers, somewhere I would like to be in some capacity, they do make a point of being genuine because people will figure you out very quickly. I believe that in life regardless. And furthermore, I would like to make sure that the people that end up watching my stuff are people that agree with me in some capacity. I'm not going to be able to please everyone, but it's a good time to look into a controversial topic. In this case, we're talking about ethics, morals, and virtues being involved in business, more specifically in Pokemon in this case. So, for context, I'm going to be showing you a conversation between me and someone that I will not reveal their identity. I don't really need to because Gibraltar's a very small place and they've probably already revealed themselves. However, for the wider world, I won't be doing that. I won't be showing any of their details, etc. Even though, and the reason I'm making this video public is because they decided to share mine and try and defame or provoke some kind of defamation, if you like, and tarnish my character and that of my business. And I don't take very kindly to that. And so, this is where we are. So, for context, this person, I fired them a deal not long ago for £965 for Pokemon cards, buying them at roughly 80% value, maybe a bit more. So there's a small profit margin. At the same time, I was kind of juggling another deal for 1.2k. Honestly, I couldn't afford both. So the start of this conversation is me getting back to them and just asking them if they were still interested in the deal, because if not, I was going to pursue the other one a bit harder. Ideally, I wanted the cheaper deal, so it leave me a bit more expendable cash for other things within the business. But at the same time, I wasn't going to push it. So it should be appearing on your screen now, and let's jump right into it. So I'm going to narrate it so you can gauge my feelings and how I was expressing myself, because I know it can get lost on WhatsApp. However, I believe this person's replies are very clear, so we'll find out. And I'm the green, and it says, "Hey bud, no mean to pest you at all, but I have another large deal to possibly attend to and would just like to know where you stand with our offer. No pressure at all, I'd just like to know so I can put the money towards another potential deal." Forgive my spelling and my general coherence and fluidity in this conversation. I was actually running on no sleep within 48 hours. I have a full-time job, I have 5 children, and YouTube is something that I'm trying to do on the side. So forgive me in terms of my lack of fluidity. The person replies, "Hey, I haven't managed yet. I was close to a deal, but they wanted monthly payments and I insist on receiving the money up front, even if it means I need to wait a couple of months, and I'm also trying to sell the collection as a whole, which I would do for 1.1k, and no less. Keep in mind, I offered £965, difference of £135. I say happy to meet me at 1k and get the money there and then. Could transfer today, so I go up to 1k to try and meet them somewhere halfway, maybe a bit less." He says, "1k is a tiny bit short, man. I know my collection is about 1.4k roughly, and maybe even that's a bit generous. This is purely based on what Casey was saying, and someone else could potentially give me the 1.1. Casey, for context, is someone who I work with indirectly, and we run the Gibraltar card show together as Southern Light TCG, PB Card Shack, and Wise Collector, another business in Gibraltar that so two businesses in Gibraltar that I work closely with, and we're trying to upstart the Gibraltar Card Show together. So that's Casey, one of the members of PB Card Shack. There's 4 of them, I believe. So I say, do you have a realistic here and now 1.1 though? Try and put a little bit of pressure on in the nature of haggling and just going back and forth, which is part of the job as a vendor, and I do love that. So, and he says in terms of the card quality, etc. I wasn't really referring to card quality, but anyway, I said, I understand what Casey is saying, and that's fair enough. Doesn't make him the subject matter expert though. Because if he's quoting just what Casey said, or what anyone says for that matter, I'm going to go back and say, well, hang on, I think this. No issues with that, right? So moving on, I'd still need to review the quality regardless. No one in Gibraltar has the grading experience I have yet. My intention was to grade some of those cards. Now, what I'm saying is no one has the amount of cards graded with ACE or with PSA within Gibraltar, the experience in that case that I have yet that I know of in terms of numbers. PB and Wise are doing ACE at the moment. They may overtake me at some point, but I don't think they have yet. And in terms of getting grades right, I normally get grades right, especially when we're talking about 10s with ACE so far. And the track record shows that. I say I'm offering £1,000 here and now, not monthly installments. I'm trying to throw a bit more wood in the fire. Let's see if we can get something going here. He says that's very true, but he did go through every single card on Card Market as well. So this is based purely on those values. But if you can offer me the 1.1, I would happily sell it to you today. After seeing the cards, of course. Basically, Card Market, for those of you that aren't in Europe, is probably the #1 platform for buying and selling. Basing value based on that is probably the most accurate you're going to get in terms of quality as well. It's kind of the European version of TCG Player if you're in the States. So I say, I'll tell you what, I'll go £1,050 here today and no higher, bud, as I don't agree with Casey on this. So I'm going up to £1,050, an additional £85 from where I originally set off at. And I say to him, so if you'd rather wait for the sake of £50, then that's fair enough. Collector prices are always inflated anyway these days, at least when it comes to raw cards. Now I'm making reference specifically to raw cards, not graded per se, and it's no slander towards collector as an application. I have it myself. I think it's very good. I just think when it comes to raw cards, I think card market is more consistent, used by more people. Could be wrong though, and as time passes, because it's getting more and more popular. And he says, and I quote, "Okay, fine, you have yourself a deal." Right, now this is a point of reference as far as I'm concerned, because when someone says to you, "You have a deal," what does that mean to you? Imagine being on a vendor table, someone shaking your hand and saying, "Deal." What does that mean to you? It means that you're not going to go back out of it. Imagine if you do a coin flip with someone for £50 plus or less, they lose, right? And then they back out of it. What are you going to think? As far as I'm concerned, if you say deal, it's a deal. So keep that in mind. That's my point of view. You can disagree if you want. I think you're wrong though. Moving on, and he says, "I will take £1,050 for it." So he says, "You have a deal?" Right, let's go back up. "Okay, fine, you have yourself a deal. I will take £1,050 for it." I say deal, emoji, handshake. Okay? He says, "How do you want to go about meeting up to see it?" I'll respond in a bit. "I'm at work." I say, "Any chance you can come to mine today, mate? I have all 5 monsters. Kids, and let me know how you want to get paid," because I had all the kids at home at the time and the wife didn't get back until a little bit later. She was at work. So anyway, that's what I was hoping to achieve. And Gibraltar's very small, about 6.7, I believe, square kilometers total. So, and he says, laughing emojis, "It depends where you live, to be honest. I don't have transport at the moment. Best way is through bank transfer." "Oh right, currently at Caleta, that's where I live. Is that too far for you?" And I say, "Send through your details whenever you'd like, bud." Sends through his details, declaring that he'd like to be paid in British pound. Obviously, I cannot show those details. And he says, "Here's the details. Unfortunately, it's pretty far from where I am. I live in." And then he says, "Is there absolutely no way you can come down?" I say, "It would have to be after 8, mate, because that's when the kids go to bed." He says, "That's no problem with me at all. We can meet somewhere. I show you the cards, you transfer the money, and then we're sorted nice and easy." So, reiterating the fact that we have a deal. Then I say, "If you want, I can come over to yours, mate. I'll park in Morrison's, which is a supermarket close by. When do you finish work? Can possibly come and see you sooner." The wife got back a bit sooner than expected, so I offered to come a bit sooner. We move on, and he says, I believe that's about 45 minutes later, he says, "Hi mate, I've just received an offer for 1.1k as well, and they're willing to pay up front. I know we had an agreement, but naturally I need to take the best offer." Now, in this moment in time, I'm feeling quite mugged off, as you can imagine, but I'm trying to keep my cool. You know, practice anger management and all that. The old woosah. I say, "From who, I may ask?" And he says, "It's from Wise Collector." Now, that's the other group within the GCS, okay, the other group of vendors, good friends of mine. And to be completely honest with you, I have no issue with that it's them at all. What I do have an issue is with the fact that this guy backed out of a deal after saying deal. Now, you can haggle, you can keep going. You could have gone up to 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. I would have probably backed out at 1.1. I wouldn't have gone higher. But the point is, you can keep haggling. I know it's your collection, right? I know it's whoever's collection. But the point you say deal, that just does not sit well with me. And he says, "It's from Wise Collector." And I said, "It's kind of fail, you've virtually shaken on it." Now, it's kind of fail means it's kind of ugly, okay? In Gibraltar, we jump back and forth between English and Spanish sometimes. I speak fluent Spanish, and therefore, just to give you context, that's what it means. Anyone could probably take my word for it that does speak Spanish. I say, "That's not very professional, mate," okay? And I say, "I must say." And he says, "I'm not a salesperson. I don't need to be professional. I'm literally never collecting again. Why would I take less money when I can take more?" It's not about being a salesperson, mate. This is what I say. It's about your word meaning something, but each to their own. Now, you can agree with me or disagree with me on this. This is that point of contention that I was talking about. If you're going to back out of your word for 50 quid, it means your word is worth 50 quid. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd rather lose that money than have my word brought into contention. I just don't get it. So then he says, "This is how a bidding war goes, unfortunately." Right, a bidding war. Yeah, but when the time's out on a bidding war and you've kind of taken a deal, then that's the end of the bidding war, so to speak. But you don't really care about that. Okay, cool. So we continue. And I say, "When you've agreed to a deal, you usually don't go back on it." And then he goes, "Yeah, I would have done it if there were no other offers, but if you can match 1.1, I'll still sell it to you. Now, it would have been haggling if you hadn't said deal before this, and I would have understood. And he says, that's fine. Sorry, I say, then that's fine. Take that deal then, bud. Fair enough, I suppose. No hard feelings on my behalf. It's a shame to lose a collector. Now, you're probably going to go back at me at some point in this video and say, oh, there was hard feelings on your behalf. There wasn't. The feelings are, you just don't go back on a deal after you said deal. But anyway, we'll continue. He says, yeah, I mean, I know it's not ideal, and I'm sorry for that, but there is no reason for me to take less. It's literally the same offer, but with more money. It's the same offer, but with more money. Therefore, it's not the same offer. Anyway, I thumbs up. At the same time, I'm going back and forth with the other deal. So he says to me, if it falls through, do you still want me to let you know? I'm like, yeah, sure, mate. Good luck. I'm not going to burn bridges. It's business, I understand. And he says, no worries, thank you. I'll have an answer for you by about 8 latest. Just keep you in the loop. And I says, no worries. I'm pursuing another deal anyway, so don't sweat it, mate. And he says to me, I see you're no longer interested. Like getting defensive. And it's like, hang on. I says, no, I am. But as I said before, I have another deal on the table, and I can't afford both, in all honesty. And he says, okay, I hear you. I'll let you know as soon as possible. Thanks for your honesty. And I say, and on honesty, right? Because maybe I should let it go, but I just don't have that in me, especially when I've got to speak my mind. I'm not that kind of person. If I see bull, I have to call bull, right? And on honesty, between you and me, mate, you've gone back on a deal. You have your reasons, pero eso no se hace, full stop, really. Pero eso no se hace means you don't do that, okay? Can't help feeling a little mugged off, to be fair, but that's business, I suppose. So moving on, he says, there's no need to take it like that, man. It's not personal. I've been honest with you as well and said that there's potentially a better offer around the corner. There's nothing wrong with that. If you'd been honest and had integrity, you would have stuck to the original deal for the sake of 50 quid. Even if we're talking about £1 million more, one can understand it a bit more, but at the same time, the principle remains the same. And if you're a man or a woman or a person of principle, then surely you're going to stick to what you initially said. And that's how I feel about it. So he says, ultimately, it's my collection, I'm well aware, and I want the best price. I even think 1.1 is a little on the low side, to be honest. Clearly, you've never dealt with fenders before. Even if you think it's worth 1.4K, it's not. But if it's worth 1.3K, for example, 1.1K or 1,150 isn't a low offer for it. I think most people would do the same, and I even apologize for the inconvenience as well. I don't doubt you that most people would have done the same, but that's not the point, right? The point is that we're losing morals, we're losing virtues, we're losing what we stand for. And unless you be the change you want to see a bit, then that's not going to change. Again, I know where this is going. So I say that's all good and well, mate, but you still don't say deal and then back out of it in any walk of life. It's your collection, but it also means your word is worth £50. And anyone reading this conversation with an ounce of honour would agree. That's how I feel about it. If you're reading this and you agree with the other person, then I don't believe you're an honourable person. But each to their own. And I'm going to stand on that mountain and die on it. Now, I don't intend to offend with that statement, but that is the truth. And that's the truth. I don't intend to offend anyone with it, but I believe that that is the truth. And the truth, unfortunately, does not care about your feelings, my feelings, or anyone else's. So we'll move on. Next one. Okay, but now going back to the topic of professionalism, you're having a go at me because I want a better offer when really you could just match it and take the cards. I've never seen a business owner get like this over a deal that hasn't gone through. Firstly, you probably don't do many deals because you've collected, you've never really sold before that I know of, you're trying to get out of the hobby and this is the one deal you're going to be making. Point one. Point two, I am being professional. I am not being insulting. I am not being condescending. I'm simply expressing my mind on a topic, as anyone is free to do so. I believe I'm right on this one. And I don't think anyone's really going to be able to convince me of otherwise, really. So I state, not having a go at all, I'm stating facts, which I believe I am. Just had to be said is all. And he says, sorry that you feel that way, mate. And I say, this is the second deal you have backed out of. That was an assumption at that point, because I had assumed that the deal that he was making was PB card check, right? The other mates that I spoke about before with Casey. That's what I assumed he was making the deal with on the monthly installments, and I assumed that he'd backed out of that after agreeing to it. So that was an assumption at the time, and funny enough, I was right, and I will tell you later on why. I say that's the truth, not an insult, mate. If you want to take it to heart, it shows that you agree with what I am saying, even if it doesn't paint you in the best light. Because normally, when it comes to human interaction and you touch a nerve, what happens? It's normally the truth, and it's normally the ugly truth, and it's hard to swallow. And that's when you normally elicit an emotional response from someone. And someone responds emotionally and gets all, oh, you're taking it badly, oh, you're insulting me, oh, you're not being professional. No, I'm saying something that you don't like, and it's the truth. And then he says, yeah, because everyone on that group chat is constantly talking shit about each other. Sorry about the foul language, goes to show the kind of people that are involved. Now, he's making reference to the Gibraltar TCG WhatsApp group that I spoke about before. There are 30 plus people. Yes, there are different people in it and people have differences of opinions and sometimes people go too far, but you won't catch me talking that kind of noise on there because it's just not what I do. I'm the kind of person that if I ever have a real problem, I'm going to tell you to your face. I'm not going to do the back and forth online stuff. I just don't see the point in it and it's a waste of time. However, I will speak my mind when I need to, which is point in case. It's interesting because technically he's bad-mouthing people that, as far as I know, he doesn't really know. Maybe he knows some of them, but not all of them. And I say, hardly, mate. You won't catch me doing it anyway. Might be a few. Yes, that's true. I have seen a few people do it like I've mentioned. But then I say, but that's life, right? And then he goes, so chatting shit, apologies for the language again, is life, but me accepting the best offer is not life. And I'm like, I understand that's life. So firstly, I don't chat shit, so let's just get that out of the way. Secondly, yes, it's life, what you have done. I'm not saying it's not life. What I'm saying is it's dishonorable. He says, mate, you're getting salty because I sold some shiny cardboard to another guy with more money. I think that's quite an immature message. I'm not salty about it, right? Because I genuinely am not. Because this business is going to be a lot of back and forth. You're going to lose on some deals, you're going to win on some deals. That's just how it goes. I understand that. And he puts a little crying emoji in there. It's just like, okay, now we're getting immature with it. Keep in mind, we don't know each other. So I wouldn't really go to that level. But anyway, I say, however, what I am saying is a fact. Your word, which you have said the words deal, means nothing. Now, you can take that as an insult if you wish. But it is simply factual and in writing. Because I started taking screenshots, and I'm glad I did, because you'll see why. I'm glad I started taking screenshots. Sorry, I say, but it's simply factual and in writing. Trust me, I'm not salty. Take it as a car, for example, that you were selling me, and you agreed to a deal to then back out of it. Now, I apologize for my spelling there, but like I say, struggling with the old English at this point because I hadn't slept. You think that's honorable and proper? I don't. If you weren't sure, you shouldn't have agreed to a deal. The only thing I am stating, and again, whether you like this or not, it remains factual, is that you don't back out. If you don't say the words deal and agree to then back out of it. That's not the way things are done, at least in my book, whether it's Pokemon, cards, you name it. And I was simply expressing my mind on it. This message, frankly, is immature, but again, express yourself freely. I make reference to the fact that that message with the crying face, I believe, was slightly immature. Then he says, I don't think it's necessarily honorable. So he admits to it not being honorable, but I didn't have all the cards on the table at the time that I had agreed, mate. Yes, you did. You saying deal is all cards are on the table on your part, unless you're expressing from other people's part. But if you agree to a deal and someone comes in 45 minutes later with another deal, you shouldn't be backing out of it. That wouldn't happen at a show. That wouldn't happen in person. You shouldn't be doing it. It's not the right thing to do. And then he says, another party came in and made a better offer. If they came in and said 1.5k, would that be considered more honorable? No. It wouldn't be considered any more honorable at all. It'd just be slightly more understandable depending on who you're asking. I wouldn't understand it, but depending on who you're asking, depending on their morals, their virtues, and their moral standing as a person and what they stand on, then they will say yes or no. For me, it's a no. You don't say deal and then back out of it. I don't do it. And trust me, I've taken losses. I just don't do it because I don't like doing it for me. But hey ho, the principle remains the same. So he states the principle remains the same. Exactly. Anyway, moving on. He says, this is a good one. I've studied business long enough to know that honor is not the way things work. You do what's best for you and no one else. How much of a hypocrite can you be? You're literally saying you're a dishonorable person. You only look out for yourself and F-bomb everyone else. That is so wrong. And unfortunately, you've been caught out here, mate, because I know you're going to come and delete this message later on, but I got you. I gotcha. And then I say, and that might be what I meant is the issue you're making reference to of people talking shit might it not? Oh, my English was bad at this point. Because people lack honor. So that's what I'm making reference to. You are becoming the people that you are taking the mick out of seconds ago in that group. Worse, actually. Worse. And I say, if that's your moral code, business and honor don't mix, then that's your prerogative. But it isn't mine. I'd rather lose some money than lose the respect of my word. But again, that's me. Just please don't put me in the same box as those you refer to. I wasn't talking about you, he says, with regards to talking shit, although maybe other than this convo, to be honest, in my humble opinion, I've still been honest throughout. Honest and integrity means you stick to your word. You haven't. And if you can't accept that there was a better offer, that's more of a you problem if you ask me. Yeah, that was a me problem. The fact that I got out-dealt, if you like. But it ain't a me problem what you've done. And yours is a lot worse, bud. I've lost out on some cards. It's going to be a lot of cards a lot of opportunities over the years. Your word now means nothing. Well done. And then I say, and may I also reiterate, I am not salty, angry, or would I badmouth you and any other individual behind their backs. Not my style. Your reaction to my statement, however, tells me that I struck a nerve. My point is that if I ever need to say anything about anyone, even if I had that conversation, I have to be willing to say it to their face too. That's what I stand on. Your reaction to my statement, however, tells me that I struck a nerve. I believe I did. That nerve is simply the truth and life, as you put, being ugly and hard to swallow when it doesn't leave one in the right light and they would like to be viewed in. I'm sorry, but backing out of a deal is not something I would put into the same category as honest, but again, you and I clearly have very different definitions and understandings of the word honesty. Your comments and disclosures prove that enough. And again, please don't take this as an insult or slander. I do, however, understand that being called out for dishonorable behavior is a very hard pill to swallow. And yes, where acquiring cards is a me problem, as you've just stated, your word not being worth anything is a you problem. And that, as you've mentioned, is life, isn't it? Fantastic conversation though. I have genuinely enjoyed exploring the realms of morality with you, if nothing else. And that just goes to prove that I was in a good mood, because it meant I could focus heavily on the other deal, have more expendable cash for the other deal. And I genuinely do enjoy these kind of conversations. I like exploring other people's points of morality and why I believe they're wrong, and forming and contextualizing rationale as to why I believe they're wrong. If I'm ever caught out to be wrong, trust me, I'll be the first one to put my hands up and say, you know what, change my mind, I think you're right on this one, but this is not the case. So I go away, I film a video, true story, I come back and I see 3 messages that have been deleted. And I'm like, I didn't get to screenshot these, unfortunately. But I asked, what was deleted, may I ask, bud? Up there, you can't really see it, but what he says is, if you have screenshots of everything, why are you asking me? I says, of everything else aside from the last 3 messages, bud. As I say, I'm honest contrary to what you are currently displaying. And he says, oh dear, I'm just stating facts. This is where you could tell he's just being immature. But anyway, it's a lack of professionalism. I don't see it. If you're going to post a convo too, you're just proving my point. I don't know any business that does that, lol. So he's showing his insecurity in what he's revealed thus far in the conversation. He's showing the fact that he doesn't want it posted. And then he goes and decides to post it on his story anyway, which I find out later on through a indirect third party. And just that alone, that little text there telling me not to post a conversation before I've anything even said about posting it, but I've made reference to the fact I have screenshots, just shows that he knows he's wrong on this one. And he doesn't want to be caught out. And I say, well, okay, well, I have the entire conversation in screenshots and I'm very confident in my professionalism. And I basically say I took screenshots up there because I suspected this suspect behavior. And he says to me, if you have screenshots, why are you asking me? Puts that little emoji face on, trying to be cheeky again, thinking I don't have screenshots probably. And I say, of everything else, the last 3 messages. Sorry, I'm reading this again. But yeah, and then I go back on down to, I won't, don't worry, but you are clearly showing your true colors and worried about doing so, as you know how you have come across as a person, let alone on the subject of Pokemon cards. Now, I say I won't. The only reason, like I've said at the start of the video, is I am making it public because he decided to put my private number on his social media publicly and my business name. So that's why I'm going, you know what? So you're making reference in the conversation that you didn't want it shared, and then you go and share it behind my back because I don't have you on Instagram and you've got a private profile. And then obviously that's going to make me go, you know what? I'll put my version of events on there. And here is where I find on an Instagram story that you have posted the conversation, deleted the messages and left out all the messages, nasty messages that you decide to put out there, okay? And you decide to share my private number, which I have redacted out of this. It was up the top. And then he also decides to put, we love a professional business owner, don't we? At Southern Light TCG and an emoji trying to make out like I'm the bad guy here. And I don't even see, I'm not even worried about that text anyway, because it doesn't really paint me in the worst light. I'm happy making this conversation public, as you can see. But it conveniently leaves out everything else and tries to bring something bad on my name. So enjoy this, bud, okay? I messaged him this, by the way, as well, on Instagram. For full disclosure, okay? You have my private number. Sorry, you have shared my private number and attempted to defamation. This is how tired I was. To defamation. To provoke defamation on my character and business. All this after asking me indirectly not to share the conversation you conveniently decided to start deleting. For absolute transparency, please rest assured I will be seeking the advice of a lawyer regarding your actions to explore the possibility of taking legal actions against you. Yours sincerely, Southern Light TCG. Now, that's the truth. I have messaged a lawyer and I will be exploring it because as far as I'm concerned, you sharing my private number and then trying to put a bad name on my business is an attempt at some kind of form of defamation. I could be told I'm wrong by a lawyer, but I'm going to explore it anyway. So I hope you've all enjoyed the video today. I hope that I have started to garner a certain following that agrees with the way I conduct myself, the way I stand on business, and the way I'm honest about everything. And I hope that continues to shine through. We'll see though. These kind of conversations are interesting. I hope you enjoyed the video, especially you who decided to post that conversation if you watch it, and anyone else watching this, and I hope you know where I stand on things now. The idea behind my business has always been to keep things honest, to keep things open, to make profit margins as small as I possibly can, to try and deliver a product to collectors that I actually care about, and we'll go from there and not try and pull anyone else's name into it. I'm just trying to focus on me and what I do. However, trouble seems to like finding me when I speak my mind, and speaking your mind is always a lonely place to be if it puts people in a bad light. So unfortunately, that's how it goes sometimes. In any case, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching the video. Buy my stuff on southernlighttcg.store, and catch you on the next one, guys. Peace out.